a brand new wave, drowning out the noise that's tame. Liberty whispers through the brave, breaking free from every chain. Nullify the rules they crave, crypto beats that pave the way. Anarchy with minds that's safe, algorithms new dawn today. Out of bounds and out of sight, building futures pure and bright. Escape the grip and win the fight. Welcome into the legacy ride. Beyond control we take a stand, casting off the iron brand. Freedom flowing through our hands, revolution's our command. Decentralize the way we plan, all together we expand. Breaking shackles for the clan, in this journey we're unpanned. Out of bounds and out of sight, building futures pure and bright. Escape the grip and win the fight. Welcome into the legacy ride.
I'd just like to say fuck capitalism, fuck socialism, fuck any form of fucking socialism that you ever fucking wanted. If you are a capitalist, you are a socialist piece of shit, and you are a Trump-tard little retard, because guess what, motherfucker? The Trump administration just proved that capitalism is nothing more than socialism, disguised and woven to exploit the market, as the government has just done the unthinkable that it's always been doing under your nose. And now it's out in the open. They're buying private equity. They're buying private companies. They're buying into just about anything, whether it's Obama with GM, or it's Trump with Intel, or it's FDR and his New Deal, or it's Abraham Lincoln with the Pacific Railroad Act and all of the private railroads and every other corporate industry that took over to exploit your labor and exploit your markets through the government. Congratulations, libertarians. You just got duped into thinking capitalism is laissez faire. Go fuck yourself. This is Crypto Wednesday. Let's explain the solution of how we can escape this shithole, socialist, capitalistic mental. Sup?
We have a libertarian president.
We have a libertarian president.
Golf clap. Golf clap. Yes. What's going on?
Capitalism is socialism. I've always told you that.
Yeah, I mean, I can understand.
There's a reason why the key term capitalism wasn't orchestrated or dictated until Karl Marx wrote his Das Kapital.
Yeah.
Because you need the bourgeoisie in order to elevate a status monopoly of the quote unquote workers' revolution towards communist paradise. Somebody has to be in charge of something. You can't just have this chaotic thrust ideology of everybody's equal. Everybody's equal in what?
Suffering.
Everybody's equal in suffering. Yes, that's like Ancom saying that Jesus was a socialist. Well, that's interesting. Jesus actually fed people.
He also took the wheel.
He also did take the wheel and suffering and dying for our sins, and
See,
then
he gave us one more
resurrecting.
chance.
Hmm. Then he bodily resurrected, for which 500. There are 500 claims. I mean, accordingly. And a claim is evidence. How are you going to truly prove that evidence? There's a difference between proof and evidence. You have to take the evidence and hold faith. That's what faith is. Faith is trust. Well, I'm telling you, what is your claim, communists? That socialism works. And what is your claim, capitalists? That capitalism isn't another aspect of socialism. And perhaps the idea surrounding fascist ideology, which is socialist in its rhetoric, nationalist in its identity, is in fact capitalism in its economy.
Or corporate socialism, as someone might put it.
Same damn thing, man.
Yeah.
You can still apply the Miesian principles to what is natural within a market interworking of society and nature and praxeology, and rid yourself of that filthy, dirty, socialist, Marxist word capitalist.
Well, I mean, I'm sure a lot of people who are market oriented would prefer to be detached at all possible levels.
And that's essentially what I'm arguing here about, is capitalism is very nationalistic, always has been. There's a drive of socialist means of production protocol, nationalizing in some capacity, whether it's through a private partnership and allowing corporations that are designated by the government through charter
Pay to play.
to run wild and exploit. Yeah, it's a pay to play system. That's all capitalism is. You might as well just go straight to socialism at that point. If you really want to live in a society where it's pay to play, you might as well just go straight to socialism, where you can just nationalize everything and be subservient to a monopoly.
Well, I mean, if you're going to put down roots, I'm sure they're saying we need some kind of security guarantee, make sure that we've got somebody to look after us and make sure that our business interests are protected.
The only thing you can, okay, yeah, the only thing that you can
We need a mob.
feasibly do, the only thing that you could feasibly do to look out for your safety and security within the marketplace is to not be stupid. Because if you need security, then you don't deserve freedom, because you can't have both. Which is it, capitalist? Which is it? You want freedom, or you want safety? Because you can't have both. And I say this to the socialists too. Which is it, socialists? You want freedom? You want freedom from being exploited, or do you want safety and a cushion? Because you can't have both. You need to grow the fuck up.
Yeah.
That's what you need to do. And we live in a society where we're just surrounded by a bunch of spoiled little brats, still
We need
sucking
more
on
Benjamin
mommy and
Franklin.
daddy's penis, still sucking on daddy's dick or mommy's tit, whichever you prefer. Since it's 2021, it's probably the former. Homos.
Not 2021. It's 2025. We're past
2025,
2021.
whatever. 2021, what? Yeah. Well, I mean,
Well,
COVID opened up a lot.
right. We want the
How do
cage.
we?
We need the cage.
And this is why we're so. This is Crypto Wednesday, everybody. Episode 6. Welcome in. And I probably just lost a few of you, but you know what? I mean, this needs to be said. But the simple fact is this is where the cypherpunk adaptation to an agorist principle in blockchain technology becomes the solution. Take it from there, Andrew.
Well, I mean, you got the older generation who are steadfast in their beliefs that they're making the right choices, and everybody else is suffering because of it. Like I said, suffering. So sometimes you have to push the limits a little bit, and that's what we're going to talk about today. Donald Trump, he's trying to push the limits for his solution, and Bernie Sanders has come out saying that he supports it.
Bernie
Is
is
that
all
really?
about that money.
Yeah. Right.
Bernie's all about himself, man. He supports it because it's a good way to continue to get rich off of his insider trading deals. But I'm a socialist. We need socialism.
You think
I
he's
don't know
got?
if that was a Bernie.
He's got investments in or he's got investments in Intel. You think? I don't know. It's all public.
Do I think? I mean, it's all public. We can. I mean, anybody who wants to double check that, fact check, but wouldn't be surprising. In fact, after the show, I may go check that. Unless Andrew, you want to double check it on the show there.
I mean,
what's his face from Joe Rogan? I forgot his name.
Dave Smith. Oh
no,
I was talking with Jamie. I was just watching the Dave Smith episode today, so you have to forgive me. But
oh man, he still hasn't brought on the GOAT. No. I won't watch Joe Rogan ever again until Robbie the Fire gets on Joe Rogan.
Oh, they was talking about what's it called? You just did the 10-hour episode with Lex Friedman. He was on our
Scott
program.
Horton on Lex.
Scott Horton, yeah.
That's fascinating. I don't know if I'm gonna watch it all because that's 10 hours. And that is a lot of getting through Lex's robotic voice and his autism. 10 hours of Lex. I mean, I'll get to it eventually.
The 10-hour episode is like a totally different program because they had a few other ones before it recently. So, but anyways, before we get off on a tangent, you want to get into this video with breaking points, and I've never seen their program before, so it'll be interesting to see what they've got going on. But
no, I asked you a question before we jumped into it. Solutions. Where did the solutions lie?
Well, the solutions lie in them trying to implement a solution to their problem, and then somebody counteracting that, and then eventually somebody else counteracting their counteraction. It's diluting their.
You're repeating the pattern that always happens. What is the solution with utilizing blockchain in order to discourage the government from making public partnership with companies?
They're making a contingency plan, and they're acting on it because the game's up for them with the Federal Reserve, and by trying to implement it, everybody has to follow their rules. But by the time
that's not what I asked. That's not what I asked. You're repeating what we already know and what they're doing. Like that's their solution. I'm referring to how do we use the blockchain as a solution to implement a deterrent towards this sort of action, whether it's nationalization, full-blown nationalization, or a 10% stake, if not more or less, of a private-public partnership. How do you deter that through the solutions of the blockchain?
First of all, you take them off an infinite money hack through the Federal Reserve. That's deflating
you're never going to do that.
Power. Well, they're trying to implement their own perspective of what law and order is supposed to be with Bitcoin Core.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And they're forced to make a decision and act on it. And when they do
You-
that,
you-
they had to build out their infrastructure about how they think the law should operate. When they
It's
build
still
that
not.
out, will you let me finish?
Go right
When they
ahead,
build
man.
that out, somebody else comes up with an alternative solution and they're forced to backpedal. And while they're
Mhm.
trying to defend themselves, somebody comes in and provides another alternative, solution
It-
to whatever that they come out with, and eventually their potential for influencing society dilutes it to a point that it's brittle and it breaks.
You still haven't answered the question, though. You're backpedaling into the pattern.
Um,
I understand the pattern of how counter economics works when one system is put in place, another, and as it gets their foot on the ground, somebody else is going to make an alternative that cooperates within and against the systems in place. What I'm asking is, how do you use blockchain as it is and as we innovate it to bring about a solution to deter their forms of systems that they already have a foundation on? How do you deter the government nationalizing or partnering, which is a form of nationalizing, through blockchain systems? You're just repeating the pattern, which I'm fine with that. I mean, the viewers should know the pattern of how it works, but I want to know the solution.
well, they're obviously running out of room to go to, so they're going to have to play these cards, and this is just accelerating them playing what cards they have.
Can,
I
can
mean,
I say the solution using
sure,
blockchain with the
sure.
adaptation of smart contracts and DAOs up on a decentralized level? It gives more transparent, organized control by a pool of individuals that are secondary outside of the corporate governance that we have, so that you can place more checks and balances for a company, for a government, for whatever, to instill cooperative competition upon the blockchain. That's
So
my solution.
radical decentralization.
Was that That's what I was waiting for you to give a solution, but you were just preaching of what is already happening through the patterns of what happens as we go into the domino effect, going up the ladder, domino effect, which is weird, but it's like a reverse domino effect up a ladder. That's what you were basically repeating.
I mean, radical decentralization is, like I said, it's a dilution of their momentum. So I don't know.
But you weren't giving me the solution. You were just telling me what they're doing. Bring up the video, Andrew. I'm gonna make you
All right,
ponder. Maybe the video will trigger solutions you can bring up.
trigger happy. See Weird Al song.
Let's get to Intel. This is a very interesting story, actually. Lots of perhaps some left-right horseshoe. A lot of the right people are very upset about it. So let's go ahead and put it up here on the screen. New announcement made by Donald Trump. He says, quote, "It is my great honor to report that the United States of America now fully owns and controls 10% of Intel, a great American company that has even more incredible future. I negotiated this deal with the highly respected chief executive officer of the company. The United States paid nothing for these shares, and the shares are now valued at approximately $11 billion. Great deal for America. Also a great deal for Intel, building leading edge semiconductors and chips, which is what Intel does. Fundamental to the future of our nation. Make America great again. Thank you for your attention to this matter." And so this has invited a lot of very interesting discourse. Just to give everybody some more details, we can put the Wall Street Journal story up on the screen, which gives some of the details. Basically, what it does is it converts
from your first note.
CHIPS Act grants into equity. So they were going to get this money anyways from the government. What it does is converts to equity in the company. And what it basically says is it's going to be followed potentially by other types of these deals. Under the terms, the $8.9 million in grants that had already been awarded to Intel from 2022, but had not yet been paid, will just be transferred to equity in the company with basically a swap of that. They won't even have any like voting, direct control in the overall thing. They're paying some quote $20.47 a share, which is actually a discount apparently from what was recently offered to the Japanese-controlled SoftBank, just so everybody aware. But the point is that it's a bigger question about government control and whether the government should have a say in how these type of companies operate. And this is a big, like libertarian, more like Koch brothers, traditional free market view. And what I would say is an industrial policy view. And it's actually important for everybody to sit and to think about the story of Intel. Intel was the flagship American semiconductor manufacturing company. It remains one of the only major semiconductor manufacturers in the United States today who creates their own fabs. This is another important thing. A lot of people don't understand this. NVIDIA and AMD, two of the largest shares of market cap chip companies, they don't make anything. They design them and TSMC makes all of it. Intel is the only one that actually knows how to make it. Now, why does that matter? Because if 90% of advanced manufacturing for chips happens on the island of Taiwan, one of the literally most geopolitically unstable places in the world, that seems to be like a little bit of a choke point. And maybe one where America has an advantage in moving away from that. That's why we're both supportive of the CHIPS Act. Well, everybody needs to understand this. If you leave it to the free market or to American capitalism, Intel is the story. You shut down the fabs, you become less competitive. Meanwhile, Samsung, which is AKA a branch of the Korean government, TSMC, AKA a branch of the Taiwanese government, SMIC, AKA a branch of the Chinese government, are going to eat your lunch because they don't care about profit and loss statements on a shareholder. They will subsidize the shit out of the industry to roll it up and to let Intel basically sacrifice itself on the altar of, quote, free markets, because it's easier to outsource than it is to actually build shit, especially here in America. So then the question is, how do you accomplish that? Now, the grants themselves, part of the problem is that they're not stringent enough, in my opinion, to make sure that they do not continue a lot of this MBA style process. So the question is, how do you actually compete, if it's even possible, with TSMC, with SMIC, with Samsung, with all of these chip manufacturers who build actual fabs? One way is the current way with the CHIPS Act, where we're trying to get those companies to build here in America. I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with that. But part of the problem is still, it's not an American company. You still don't have nearly as much control as you would for national security purposes. Taiwan's always going to be Taiwan first. Korea's always going to be Korea first. China, they're the best at being China first. So shouldn't we have some sort of answer? And so before I get your take, Crystal, we got to put out Senator Bernie Sanders, the GOAT, as always, sticking to his principle. Let's put it up here on the screen. Here's what he had to say. If microchip companies make a profit from the generous grants they receive from the federal government, the taxpayers of America have a right to a reasonable return on that investment. And so not only do I endorse that, but I actually would say that if anything, we should have more of control with Intel here. Yes, I know, crony capitalism, whatever. All right, let me, again, spell it out for you. There is no critical national security interests which should not be under the control of the government. It would actually be irresponsible to do so, because if you don't, then you're going to end up like America today, which is basically a hollowed out husk of people who design shit and then let the Chinese, the Taiwanese, the Koreans, the Japanese actually build all of it for us. God help us if we're ever actually in a bad situation. That's my overall.
Bernie's principle, 100% agree with. Unfortunately, I just know that Trump is going to use this to do some stupid, corrupt,
gold chip. We'll have the first gold chip ever manufactured.
Not only that, I think it's also important for people to really sit with, these chips are incredibly important. Yes. They genuinely are, which is part of the case for why we should have a direct interest. And yes, I think Bernie's principle is totally true, that if we are giving these companies all these subsidies, and Bernie, I think, actually opposed the Chips and Science Act or had some issues with it because of all the, the taxpayer subsidies. So I think it's reasonable to say, yes, the American people should benefit from profits. However, because this is such a critical industry, we're talking about for defense, we're talking about for aerospace, we're talking about for EVs, for the industries of the future, renewable energy, so critical. You could just see the way Trump would use this way to, punish his.
What do you mean American people should benefit? How does this benefit the American people when it's our tax money, or at least them creating through credit expansion, inflation, and devaluing the purchasing power of the dollar through having the government own a 10% ownership of Intel? How does that help the taxpayers?
It really doesn't help them in a meaningful way. It's just more there as a way for them to say, "Oh, well, we're here on your behalf, and we're going to make them do something to give you a benefit in return because we're trying to hornswoggle this into the situation right past your nose." So
I mean,
this is like somebody this is like somebody who's like filed a class action lawsuit and says that you get a return for being somebody who's signed up for it, and the people that make the real returns are the lawyers that did all the work, and the people that sign up for it get like maybe a quarter of a percent. I'm just being facetious, but I'm just saying it's not a real like actual bread and butter return. It's just crap.
no, the only ones that are going to actually profit off of this or benefit off of this are those who are going to profit off of this that are in cushy government jobs that have stakes in the stock, which is now effectively and directly subsidized completely because the government has 10%. So now it just says the government needs to target more subsidy and more grant subsidy to Intel, funnel it through because we have a 10% ownership in it, which is going to benefit as we inflate the stock price so that you have your congressmen and your bureaucrats and your senators and whoever else in government that has stock shares in this company already.
Yeah. And I mean, really, when they do something, if they was really able to pull this off, then that would mean that they have a say in not only how the business is run, but in providing backdoors for them to take advantage of any number of things from federal law, like trying to bust somebody within the United States, to internationally, and trying to understand the secrets of different countries and companies. And I understand why they would think that would be a good idea, but there's always blowback and consequences to it when you have some sort of like direct intervention in a business. It's like we was talking about on Friday or Saturday's episode, this last Saturday, the Cobra effect, right? There's unintended consequences.
Mm-hmm. Yep. There's always unintended consequences, no matter what. But I mean, as far as this goes, I mean, I don't know. Let's move on. Let's get to the rest of it. It's all bullshit.
Okay.
Political opponents, to reward his cronies, all of those sorts of things. And so that's why it's like, well, we'll see. I mean, it's kind of like with the tariffs, right? Mm-hmm. In general, do I support some, protectionist policy in key industries? Sure. Does this man execute that in any sort of like a reasonable way in the American interest? No. He executes all his policies in his own interest. Well, it's all about him personally having more power, money, influence, control. And so that's why I can't totally be like, let's go with this.
It's
and
a Venn diagram.
You have some of the same reservations.
Of course, same reservation, right? Like I said, all they got to do is build a gold chip and give it to him. They'd be like, oh, okay, cool, I'm good. I don't need to make anything else here.
Right.
But I still think it's worth fighting because all of Wall Street and all these other people are up in arms. They prefer the NVIDIA AMD model, which is pay for play. And I think that's ridiculous, which is basically grants NVIDIA and AMD, as long as they pay pay their 10% to the US government, they get to do business in China. No, we decide whether you do business in China or not. And again, the question is, this is the value problem and the American problem in a nutshell. Have you ever noticed every time you buy a laptop and you open it up, what does the word say? It says designed by Apple in California. Designed by Apple in California. Manufactured in Guangzhou, Shanghai, whatever. Same thing with all these chips. The reason NVIDIA and AMD are so massively profitable is because they take the service sector part of our economy, which we're great at, right? We have all the world's talent and we design all this stuff, but Taiwan makes it. Over 80% of NVIDIA chips manufactured in Taiwan. I think it's 90% of AMD manufactured at TSMC. The actual nitty gritty of the manufacturing, we don't do it. Why? Super expensive. If you look at the history, there's a acquired.
It's very important to listen first, talk second. That's counterintuitive.
Podcast. If anybody wants to go and listen, I highly recommend. On the history of TSMC, 48% of initial startup capital for TSMC, Taiwanese government. People don't understand. This is not an industry which you can compete by the quote free market. It will not happen. You will get crushed by state capitalism. And in fact, this is, again, I would ask all these conservatives and all that, let's look at the model, because their claim is state capitalism can't work. Really? BYD doesn't work? That's news to the largest and one of the most profitable car companies in the world. BYD doesn't work. SMIC isn't a juggernaut in terms of chip manufacturing. Look at their battery manufacturer. Look at their airplane manufacturer. All their high-tech manufacture. None of it makes any actual profit. All of it is subsidized by the government. And all of it is, frankly, creating, in many cases, much better products than so-called free market capitalism here in America. This isn't to say a whole endorsement of the Chinese model, but you cannot sit with a straight face and say it doesn't work. It obviously works.
I mean, the number of people that China has lifted out of poverty
That's what I'm
genuinely
saying.
An economic miracle.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's genuinely an economic miracle. However, do we think that Trump with Howard Lutnick and these people are going to be have the long-term interests of America in mind, and even have the even if they did have the capability to like plan strategically and execute on a a whole industrial policy? Of course not. And so on the one hand, look, I hope that there are some, bold Democrat out there somewhere who's looking at all of this and can say, okay, well, they sort of laid down the marker here. We can take this model and we can expand and we can actually do it in the American interest. I hope that maybe that exists. Am I confident about that? No. In the meantime, we know this is going to be less of the China model and more of the Russia model of let me use the state control to reward my cronies and lock in this, group of oligarchs who surround me and bring me gold bars in the Oval Office or whatever and pad my own bottom line and use it in order to make sure I can punish the opposition. If Gavin Newsom wants to do renewable energy projects in the state of California, I'm going to make sure he can't get the chips that he needs to be able to succeed in his project, et cetera. That's much more likely to be the direction that we go in with this.
Well, let me give a defense of the Russian model is whenever the sanctions hit, what happened? Their GDP grew. They actually survived because the Russian model, if correctly executed, is yes, we will be massively corrupt and give it out to our oligarch friends. But at the very least, it's all here because we're the worst of all worlds. We're oligarchic and we've outsourced everything. So we have a Russian style pay for play system without any of the domestic manufacturing, domestic capabilities, and watching people freak out about this, about socialism and the scary word and all of that.
Well, it is funny to see people who freaked out about Zoran's 5 grocery stores.
Totally right. Yeah.
Then turn around and be like, oh, this is fine.
Okay. Yeah. So here's a good taste of some of it, shall we? This is from Eric Erickson, one of the classic, never Trump style original conservatives. Here's what he had to say.
There's no national security justification for this. In fact, I had some anonymous account on Twitter say, yeah, there's a national security justification for having control of Intel. Really? We don't have control of Raytheon. We don't have government control of NVIDIA. We don't have government control of Apple. We don't have government control of Boeing. We don't have government control of Lockheed Martin. We don't have government control of any major weapons developer or defense contractor. But you want 10% control of Intel.
That's coming. See this as a shining example. If they can do this with Intel, then they can gravitate towards taking a hold of certain ownership with Raytheon and certain ownership with Boeing or Lockheed Martin or Apple, and that's dangerous footing, especially with like Apple or Google or whatever, because then that's the government having more say in how companies like Google and Apple use your data and extrapolate it back to the government. They can create backdoors. This really, like, this Intel takeover of 10% is literally literally why you should have adamantly been against the Genius Act that was passed this past July, because this is exactly what the government is doing. The government is creating backdoors in order to have some interworking, whether it's within the crypto sphere, as well as part of the stablecoin apparatus, and the stablecoin and custodial apparatus of the blockchain, and Bitcoin, or within the open corporate market, say with Intel, and eventually more to come.
Well, this isn't anything new. I mean, I know how was it back in 2016? I remember reading an article about how the government is shipping viruses on hard drives that haven't even been installed in any computers yet, so that they could. It wasn't like a traditional virus. It was built into the firmware of the hard drive, so they could have access to people's computer data and know what they were doing on their computers.
Mm. Well, they've been doing that for quite some time.
And I mean, who's to say they won't implement that into the firmware of the CPUs that they build?
Of course they would.
And this is what I was talking about before. It's the pressure test to see what they can get away with. I wasn't saying that specifically, but they push and push, and they implement, and they enthrall themselves into every environment that they can behind the scenes, just like what China did. And that lady was talking about how China has brought all these people out of poverty. Yeah, by killing millions and millions of people, and then saying we make the rules now, and you're gonna tote the party line. That's exactly what our government is doing. It's just not so overt. It's covert.
The difference is we didn't kill millions and millions of people. We made them retarded with a shot. Anybody? Anybody?
I mean, in a way, we've ruined a lot of lives by the way we've directly interfered in people's personal lives.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, and we have slaughtered millions. We have slaughtered millions across the world. I mean, so that in effect, also the re-education of a populace and the dumbing down with certain chemical orchestration by subsidizing certain industries, to prop up other industries. This is a no-brainer. I mean, obviously the government's going to want their fingertips in the cookie jar, and they're trying to get their whole hand into the cookie jar. Right now they have their fingertips. They're almost to that cookie. They almost got it. Someone still keeps slapping them, but their hands in the cookie jar, and they can feel the cookie. They can feel it. They just can't grab it because they keep getting slapped. It's getting to the point where eventually you're just going to get tired of slapping the little child's hand, and finally they're going to grab that cookie, snatch it, and run off.
Yeah. Well, another thing to think about real quick, what I'm thinking about is, like I said, they implement this whatever they want in the firmware of the CPU. There's open hardware standards called RISC V, and people saying, "Oh my God, you're pushing this, so China gonna." Okay, yeah, China might have access to it, but so does the United States. So does everybody else, and they can see what's being implemented in the firmware of the hardware.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, that's a good thing. That's called cooperation within competitiveness. If you get competitive and you know what you have, then you know what to combat yourself against and to innovate and make things better. So I'm going to ask you again, Andrew, was that your blockchain solution?
I mean, it's not blockchain, but it's CPU related. I mean, you use CPUs to
Yes.
mine Bitcoin. So another thing, everybody's we're going to get on the adopt Linux bandwagon.
solution.
Okay. Well, we've had an episode on World Blockchain, not World Blockchain, on our program before, where we were talking about there was like a soft color revolution in the open source community a while back, and we covered it. This is the next step. I mean, it's getting to a point you have to look like a conspiracy theorist to say, oh, that you got to make sure you have the right CPU because the government might be watching you, because they might be. You never know.
Probably watching you right now, Andrew. They're probably looking in your bald head and be like,
He's softest right here. We can shoot him right there with the suicide gun.
No. They're looking through the camera, I know. Of their own reflection in your bald head and making sure they look pretty. They're too stupid to realize what they could do to you.
Right.
Really, they're too stupid. It's not a very intelligent human being behind the intel operations of spying. It's really just a dumbass that can get certain details on you. That's about it. It's not the brightest. They don't get they don't collect the brightest, sharpest tools in the shed to run their spy networks.
You had to be kind of stupid to be a spy in England. I mean, that's how they work, right? They can't directly spy on us. So they say, hey, my friend down here in South Carolina, he's a little crazy. Can you do a little investigation on him and see what he's doing? Yeah, sure.
And then that's when they send the actual feds to your house that may or may not uninstall you.
.exe. Well, you want to get back to this Never Trumper real quick so we can finish this episode out? It's only got a couple minutes left. Here we go.
Exchange for money the government already promised to give them. That's socialism. You may be comfortable with socialism. You may decide you like socialism because someone from the Trump administration wants socialism. But my God, people, what have we been fighting for the last decade? You want smaller government? This expands it. You want the government not to go woke? Well, what happens when the Democrats get in charge and they become the largest shareholder of Intel? Good luck stopping that from happening. You know there's no such thing as permanence in politics in the United States of America. You're not going to stop a Democrat from one day winning re-election or getting into the White House. Having the government take control of a private corporation in exchange for government funding, first of all, they shouldn't even get government funding. You should let Intel fall flat on its face for having a bad business decision and let the creative destruction of the marketplace pick them apart. Let other companies buy up their pieces or let them regroup. A government bailout, you know what this does is it causes a distortion in the marketplace, something called a moral hazard, where more and more companies realize they can take extraordinary risks and fall flat, irresponsible risks, not extraordinary risks, irresponsible risks. And the government will just say, well, give me 10% of your company and I'll make you right.
That would be national suicide. That's literally a case for national suicide, is we should let it's like the auto companies. Don't bail them out. Let them fail. Okay. Right. Yeah, great. That'll be awesome. For the people of Detroit, for any sort of manufacturing. During World War II, the U.S. took control of literally the War Production Board set the actual amounts that every company in America had to produce. At many times, they would come in, seize the mines, seize the actual factory floor. No strikes, none of this bullshit. This is the amount that we're pumping out today because we have actual national security concern. The idea there's no national security concern, again, on chips is preposterous.
That is preposterous.
We are in the opposite, where it is one of the most glaring problems that we face as a country. It's like
what Sagar, his talking points here, breaking point. What he's explaining here is that's national suicide. Is it national suicide to let companies fail that are making extraordinary risks on liquidity and investment? I mean, in a pool of the market that doesn't really have anything, perhaps we need to allow the market to correct and allow these companies to fail. And it will. You're right. We're gonna feel some hurt for a short-term duration. We don't know how long it's gonna be felt. It could be 6 months. It could be 2 years. It could be 10 years. But in that scale of time, we will be benefiting from changing our outcomes in the market so that we can come out, we can climb out of the hole. I mean, it's a dip. It's like skiing. You go up the hill to ski on down. Once you get to the top, you have to go down. And if you get to the top and you get scared, then why the fuck are you skiing? Why are you at the top of that mountain about to go down? Why did you even come to the ski resort? I mean, really, you should fail. So to Sagar's point right here, you're a socialist, slimy little scumbag bitch who needs to go back to your fucking basement where you still suck on your mommy's tit and fucking live happily like a little entitled, spoiled brat. Because that's what you're saying. Let everybody be a spoiled little entitled brat. No. Let everybody grow the fuck up and take some responsibility. Go on, Andrew.
I want to say, I believe the term is oscillating.
Yeah.
Balance of power. You know, they've got the power now, but the balance doesn't stay in their favor forever. They always screw up. Everybody who's in power always screws up and eventually loses that power to somebody else. It doesn't matter if it's a state or if it's a city, if it's a person. You know, everyone makes the same mistakes because nobody is perfect.
Yeah. That's pretty much what happens. And to the Never Trumper's point, he's exactly right when it comes to the political realm. What's going to happen when Democrats take power again, which is inevitable, everybody? What are they going to do with this 10% in Intel? How are they going to govern and regulate?
They're going to escalate, but they're going to do it in a way that nobody expects.
Exactly.
They're going to be sitting here waiting on the back burner for their potential push, and they're going to seize it because, like I said, everybody makes mistakes, and they're going to capitalize on their investment and their ideas.
The left centrists are going to do much better than the right of center. And for Trump to campaign against the radical left, to be doing something that is literally to the rhetoric that you said you were against in your populist campaigns, plural campaigns, you're doing exactly what they would do. You're playing into their hand. It's just basically a juggling effect. We're going to go back and forth. It's a binary.
Are you trusting the plan Anon?
Never trust the plan. Don't get comfortable with the plan. Make your own plan. If there's a plan in store by somebody else, I would advise you to choose the exit and walk away and go make your own plan.
Right. All right, let's get back into this. We've only got about 5 minutes left.
Slow moving crisis. Every single day that we move forward and we come to some sort of quote solution, as the Chinese like to call it, to the Taiwanese question, we are so screwed. We literally, as a country, we would have to turn our laptops in. We probably would have to stop broadcasting. We have to turn all of these computers in because the government would need to rip the chips out of them for missile production or any of that. People do not understand how vulnerable we are. Fabs and all that takes 5-10 years to come online. It is so difficult, massively capital intensive. Again, the only reason the Taiwanese are where they are is because they subsidized the hell out of it. It's because they knew that we were so dumb that we would let our companies fail. And the best part is Morris Chang, where do you think he learned everything that he got? Here, from Texas Instruments. He came to America. He learned our system, and he's like, yeah, these guys are idiots. Went back to China, went back to Taiwan, game over. Killed us. Same with, with the Koreans and more. So anyway, look, I understand your concern, but the benefit actually is, sure, 3.5 years of Trump, it's probably going to be dumb. All right, let's all be honest. But it's staying.
If you are sleeping in a position like this, you are wrecking your body and your breathing. Chronic neck pain happens when you're
And that's a good thing.
We'll see.
I think it's a good thing.
We'll see how it all pans out.
Look,
I
whoever
will
comes next.
say, at least Erickson is consistent. You know, the number of Republicans who, panic over the 5 grocery stores and then they have nothing to say about this is pretty funny to me, pretty entertaining.
Nobody actually believes that for a national security industry that you should leave it to the free market or creative destruction.
Some people do.
But
that guy does. This has been but a lot of people do in this town. Because that's been the de facto policy for years. Is let's let all of the, pharmaceuticals go overseas. Let's let, also any sort of critical production. Let's not have any sort of a national strategy or, and let's not care certainly at all about the way that we're destroying the lives of the working middle class in this country. I mean, that has been the policy. What Eric Erickson is describing, that continues by and large to be the policy of America.
And that's the issue, right? I thought that we all fought against that. I thought that if you look at a poll or whatever, they would be like, it's preposterous, the idea that you should not have chip manufacturing or frankly, pharmaceutical manufacturing, oil refineries, nuclear reactors, anything that sustains something. We are so outdated and increasingly embracing national suicide. And it's watching it all happen every day is disgusting. I just recently was talking with someone about the old model of America in World War II, which a lot of people want to look at and venerate as a production. The country, the B-17, Boeing, and who we are.
Yeah.
One of the benefits that we had as America was we were a country that was able to churn out all of this weaponry and these tanks. We did it with machines and with a population and a troop force which knew how to do that to mobilize. And what we were fighting were the Germans and the Japanese, who were people who didn't have mass production, but had highly specialized, almost artistic types of manufacture, where for the Japanese Zero or for the very first jet engine that the Germans were ever able to create. We're the Germans now. We're the Japanese. We have these crazy expensive B-2 bombers and all this stuff. Do we have the fuel to fly them? Do we have all of the bombs or the ammunition or the chips to actually put into them? No, we're the Germans now. And putting it in that terms is really important for people to understand. We have moved away from that mass production economy to this highly specialized one that actually in a crisis would never be able to function. And that's really, honestly, it's scary. Russia today is a much better model for a country who's able to survive as a result of a crisis. And so anyway, this puts us, hopefully, I think, on a better direction.
Well, if it all ends with, a Democrat coming in and nationalizing pharma, I will retrospectively say, yes.
I mean, look, what Dem would be dumb enough not to at least say that on the campaign trail? Seriously.
All of them?
Huh? You really think so?
Yes.
At this point?
So,
maybe you're right. I don't know.
Name one that would be nationalized pharma.
Somebody's got to say, or somebody's got to say something about it. I mean, yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe we're so captured.
You think Gavin Newsom is going to say nationalized pharma?
I don't know if there's that many pharma countries.
Gretchen Whitmer? These people are...
I wonder where they all... I didn't need to look into it for where their manufacturer bases are. Because, most of them are European anyway. Screw them. All right? Anyway.
There's a lot, I think, in New England. Anyway.
Oh, yes. Let's embrace communistic militarism.
Right.
Awesome. Let's embrace militarism. You want to know why the United States was semi-successful during World War II? It was because of the Lend-Lease program, the nationalization of industries to a certain extent with the New Deal. We were still a collapsed economy, but the war allowed us to gradually get out of our collapse, just gradually. But you want to know why the economy was able to, why the country was able to heal?
Oh, I want to answer that.
Go ahead,
Andrew. It's because we killed a vast majority of our population.
Oh yeah, that too. That is true. And to go on to the episode of Legacy News this past Monday, we discussed that of how feudalism in the West, in the Western kingdoms, kind of evolved away from feudalism because of the Black Death. Whereas in the East, like Russia and Poland and Bulgaria and all that, kind of went stricter, is because they didn't have innovations. They weren't improvising to the Black Death, so they they kind of restricted people's movement and made them slaves to force the peasantry to be labor.
Right.
Slav. And then the West improvised and said, oh, you know what, maybe we should open up a little bit and let people, think and improvise and innovate and let some sort of market, they didn't have the word for market, but some sort of market intuition occur so we can survive. Whereas we're doing the exact opposite. Like post World War II, most of the population of the world was basically done for. They were toast. I mean, so it was a little bit easier. We were also back into a peacetime initiative, and we started to provide peaceably within the market. Now imagine if we didn't fight each other all the time, and we actually cooperated through true praxeology. Maybe we need to stop repeating history and learn from history so that we can actually cooperate with human action. And we wouldn't have this argument between capitalism good, socialism bad, socialism good, capitalism bad. No, it's just like the Democrats and the Republicans. They're two sides of the same coin.
I mean, that's just, I don't have much of an argument against that.
I mean, capitalism gave us the you like to mention this all the time there, Andrew. Capitalism after post World War II gave us the managerial revolution. Socialism gave us the birth of the progressive movement. Think, motherfuckers.
Yep.
Excuse the language and the cursing, but this needed to be said, and this actually does get me heated because human beings do not learn from their mistakes. We improvise them to a certain extent and then relive them.
It's a revolving door.
And it shouldn't
Spoiled,
be.
right? Childish.
Mm-hmm. It shouldn't be a revolving door. It should be a conveyor belt going one direction towards the exit, and then we ship out to wherever, whenever, whomever, so we can sprout seeds, just a little bit of seeds of liberty all across the land as our package gets dropped off.
Hey, I guess it's better than smoking with my glaucoma. It's a Bitcoin song.
There you go,
Speaking of
buddy.
Bitcoin,
What about him?
I think he's coming to town.
I think he is too. Enjoy, everybody. Have a good Wednesday. I hope you had a good Wednesday. Have a good Wednesday night.
See you guys.
Bitcoin, baby.
Hey, yeah, this is Bitcoin. I'm back. The king of the rap shit. I'm back in this Bitcoin, baby. I'm back in this bitch. Flossing fast cars and rolling with my clique. The king of the rap shit, the real OG. Whack-ass rappers got nothing on me. Bought another Lambo, 3 hoes inside it. 10 hoes in line, ready to ride it. It's Bitcoin, bitch. Keep the track bumping. Really on the plug. I got pies in the oven. 80 years old, and your baby mama fond of me. All she wanna do is smoke my broccoli. Private jets from Rome to Ibiza. Lisa, Jenny, Julie, and Maria. Every day I gotta give thanks. I got Bitcoins in the bank. Bitcoin, baby. I'm back in this bitch.
Bitcoin, baby. Oh.
I'm a bad motherfucker.
Bitcoin, baby.
The king of the rap shit. I'm back in this bitch. Axe your grandmother. Verse 2, coming with the gin and the juice. Call me a drag, spit flame in the booth. I'm hot, like a thermos full of coffee. So hot, can't get the hose off me. It's true. I got the weed card and shit. I'm smoking like a motherfucking chimney, kid. Bitches love me. My shit's never whack. Tell these motherfuckers Bitcoin's back.
Bitcoin, baby.
I'm a bad motherfucker.
Hot like hot coffee. Oh.
Axe your grandmother.
Surprise, motherfucker.
The king of the rap shit. I'm back in this bitch.
Get your hands in the air. Put your hands on the car. Put your 2 hands on the rock. Put your 2 hands on the road.
Bitcoin, baby.